help you to understand that, oh, sharing your story or telling a story about what you have done really uh, makes a lot of sense. And this is how people would know like the rationale behind what you are doing. So it's not enough to act, it's not enough to dance, it's not enough to design, it's not enough to use color or typography or any other element in design. The question is, what story are you trying to sell? What message are you trying to like push out there for people to know? Um, okay, I think I can share my slides now. So if you can see my screen, I would love that you make a comment on that. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, okay. So I will just continue. Um, I'll, all right. Let me go to the next slide. The next slide says what is visual storytelling because that's like where we are focusing on. Storytelling is there, but we are focusing on visual storytelling, and on part of visual, we are focusing on using design to actually tell story. Users' first impression typically form in 50 milliseconds. That's like half of a second, right? So what you are trying to tell your user, what you are trying to tell your audience, they can create an impression about it within 50 milliseconds. And it's actually very important to pay attention to these stats because it's very difficult to like draw people attention nowadays. People are like we have so many things calling for people's attention on even where they are. There are so many things. There are so many texts. There are so many images that are around them, and these are calling for their attention. So how would you, who's a designer, how would you, who is someone who is a better visual graphics, UI UX, whatever design that you do would prevent me from scrolling through my phone and look at the signboard that you have designed. Okay. How would you call my attention away from whatever thing I'm doing to what you have in mind to tell through design? So visual and storytelling are the two important words here. Visual design has to do with making a product and service, a product or service visually appealing and easy to use. If you notice that there are two um things here, visually appealing and easy to use. Like I mean, the functionality and in terms of um um what they can see, easy to see. What they can hear, easy to hear, and all that. So why storytelling is the interactive act of using words, action to reveal the elements and images of the story while encouraging the listener's imagination. You know, you are telling a story through your words, through your actions, and you are, you know, you are kind of creating a picture within the users. And it is interesting how the listeners can create different pictures of a particular story in their mind, due to their experiences, due to where they are coming from, due to, what they have been through on their life. So, due to their background, if I should start a story by saying, once upon a time, there is a king that lives in a mysterious land. Once upon a time, there is a king that lives in a mysterious land has created. If I ask Majid, if I ask Sophia, if I ask Valkis, what is your picture of that king? I'm telling you, the 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 story or the description will be different from each other because this is the way you should also envision your user, envision your audience seeing what you are designing or seeing what you are trying to tell them. Someone used to say that you can design a product, but you cannot really design how the user will use the product. You can go anywhere with the product. So combining the two words together, visual storytelling taps into the innate human tendency, from what I've said previously, leveraging on the power of visuals to evoke emotions, convey information and leave a lasting emotion. If you look at the definition here, there are three like important concepts that have been said here. One is to evoke emotions. Sorry, I'm trying to let me see if I can add some ambience to what's going on here. Okay, I think that this helps. So you're using visual story to like evoke emotions. You're using it to convey information. You're also using it to leave a long-lasting impression on the audience. And I'll explain more about this over the slide. And I would love to like tell us about the importance of visual storytelling. Why is it important to like embrace storytelling when we do our designs? It is important to use storytelling because it can help to enhance the narrative that we are trying to push out. Maybe you're trying to invite someone to an event that is going to happen on the on the on the on the beach, and your design will not, not should not show the reason someone that is in the office. That's like the inverse of what you're trying to push out. So your design should enhance the narrative that you're trying to push. Also, it helps you to connect um your designs to us, the audience. I mean, emotionally. If you are doing a design of your design is on mental health, your design is on sustainability, the colors that you use, the type of text that you use will help you to relate to the audience emotionally. It also helps to create a massive experience that you want your user or your audience to also feel immersed, to feel at home, when using your product. So you have our WhatsApp, you have our Facebook. Same way you feel on Facebook is probably different from the same way you feel on Instagram. Same way you feel on Instagram is different from the same way you feel on LinkedIn. You feel more professional, you feel more serious. They have crafted their design in such a way that they have immersed the audience, they have immersed their users for what they are doing. Also, design is visual storytelling is important to simplify communications. Yeah, so to make complex ideas, as I said, very simple. Where can I use icons? Where can I use color? So where can I use simple animation instead of writing long text? Where can I use some of these? Also, also important to make um the memory to help what you are telling them stick to the audience memory. I, I don't know, maybe it has happened to you sometimes where you kind of saw something randomly, you were not paying attention to it. Then all of a sudden, someone start talking about it. And you're like, oh, yeah, I've seen something like that. You could remember the color, you could remember the text, you could remember some images that were on that particular flyer or the app or the videos that you watch. You could remember. So visual storytelling or visuals become the window through which the audience enters into our stories. In this case, yeah, because we are talking about visual, what they can see, what they can see with their eyes. That it becomes a window shows the audience enters into our stories, to and there are several ways you can do this, right? And you can either use images depending from the icons that I use down here. So instead of writing images, I use an icon of image. You can use video and you can use text, to tell your story. Uh, And also, let me see the next slide. So, what does it mean to tell a visual story using design? It simply means solving a complex idea. It simply means um, using, telling um, words in different ways. And visual storytelling simply means, using design simply means you are solving, like design is kind of the solution. Design is the solution. Like design is the solution to telling that complex idea. Design is to be seen. Yeah, exactly. That's the word. To be seen as a solution to make complex scenarios, complex ideas very, very simple. And to be honest, there's no way you can tell your story visually or using design without understanding what design is all about. Without understanding the principles, without understanding the element that backs up design. You know, yeah, that's like the most important thing to kind of take note of. And I wrote here, back to basics, back to basics. I want to like come in contact with a fellow designer. His name is Francis. He's based in Benin. I didn't know him because he shared a story about how going back to his basics has actually helped him to understand design better. I know a lot of us are quite intrigued or carried away with I want to learn how to use Photoshop, I want to learn how to use CorelDRAW, Figma, sketch and all that. But in the real sense, what is important or what you should be paying our attention to is what really is design. What are the elements of design? What makes up design? What are the principles? What are the ideas that guide design? And this is not dependent on the tools. To be honest, I can show you designs that I've done with Canva, designs that I've done with Figma, designs that I've done with Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign. The tools are just tools, yeah, but design is design. You cannot solve, you cannot be a designer with a tool. It- It's not possible. You cannot be a designer with knowing how to use the softwares. Yeah. You are a designer when you understand principles such as contrast, such as alignment, such as hierarchy, emphasis, white space. There are so many other elements. I mean, so many other principles that will help you understand design better. Also, by designer, when you understand the elements, how to use the element, line, shapes, form, color, typography. These are elements, these are what you can see, these are what you can touch, they are probably touched in some cases, but these are what you can see, these are what you can feel in your design. In in the slide I'm sharing with you, you can see the text that I have written. You can see that there is a cloud somewhere. You can see that there is this road signpost 30 kilometers per hour and all that. I'll come back and tell you the reason why I have implemented some of these elements in my design, in my slides. So design solving complex ideas, solving complex um stories using design has to do with you understanding what design is actually all about. So my next slide. So how do you craft effective visual narrative? We are talking about storytelling, like you're narrating One day I was coming from my mom's place, and I had to like branch into the tree and eat. From there, I went to see a friend. They are narrating, they are kind of telling them, they are kind of helping them to see, okay, this is where it starts from, this is where it is going, this is the direction I'm going, and this is where I want to end. Is it? So how do you actually craft a visual narrative? Because in this case, we're talking about design, we're talking about um telling stories, solving complex ideas using design. Number one thing that is important for us is to know the audience, you know the audience, know who you are telling your story to. The same way you tell a story to a designer, the same way you tell a story to someone who is not a designer, the same way you would tell a story to um an adult, it's not the same way you tell a story to a teenager or someone that is in any stage of their life. So knowing your audience is really, really important to telling the right story. And in front of it, I wrote typographics. Typographics. Typographics is a term that is used in marketing, and you can Google it um, from your own end. It's just um, a way of grouping our audience or the audience based on their values, based on their interests, based on what is important to them, and all this is us driving at selling. You want to sell to them. So you have to understand their values. You have to understand what what intrigues them, to buying our product, to seeing our design, to using our product, And also you have to create a context, you know. Okay, now I understand my audience. But there are spectrum to this audience. Some of your, let's say you are creating ideas for people between the ages of 60 and 50. Some of them are in the market. Some of them are in the office. Some of them are well educated. Some of them, they might not be familiar with these latest technologies. Some need to, call on their kids to help them solve some problem on their smartphone and all that. So you have to create a persona. Who exactly am I trying to attract? Who exactly am I sending my product to? Who exactly am I pushing my flyer to? You know, and also another thing that is important is clarity and simplicity. Clarity and simplicity. I understand that like a designer we want to add so many spots to our design. We want to show this, we want to tell, we want to like show all. I understand designer to do that and all that. But at every point in time when you are adding something to your design, you have to be able to answer the question why. Question, why am I adding this? Is this adding to my design? Is this taking away from my design? Is this taking away from my story? Is it adding to my story? So you have to be able to answer the question why. So clarity is important, simplicity is also important. And simplicity should not be mistaken for minimalism. Yes, something can be can have a lot of element on a particular design, but it's still simple. I don't know if you are getting what I'm trying to say. So it's still simple because it is obvious what this person is trying to say. It is obvious what this design is talking about. Also, consistency and branding. Yeah, consistency and branding. So if you are following me, from the first slide, the second slide, the third one, and to the slide that we are now, you're looking at something is consistent, something is repeating itself all through, the design. And that's like important in design. You have to be consistent. Um, and a very good example that we all can relate to is probably MTN. The way they use their color yellow, the way they use their font, consistent. Coca-Cola, the way they use their red, the way they use their font, Fuda, Vest, Cowrie Wise. All these brands are very consistent. Like they don't use red today and use black tomorrow and all that. But if they are using those colors, I'm just saying, you will see some elements of their brands within those colors. That way, you can tie it back to them. You can link it back to them. And the last thing here, although there might be more, is emotions and engagement. So it's like the whole of the visual narration, engagement, emotion and engagement. We are trying to see, we are trying to like make your audience love what you are, love what they are seeing. We are trying to like appeal to them. You know, there is a reason why some people prefer Access Bank to First Bank. Aside from the customer services, aside from what you will get when you enter into the bank, there's a reason why people or youth feels GT Bank is like the bank for the youth. Yes, you feel that way that oh, GT Bank is like the bank for the youth. There's a way they have fixed that. There's a way they've spoken that with the way they use their color, the way they use their time, the way they use with the kind of event and program that you see GT Bank sponsor. So emotion, engagement. Now you create a flyer or you create an app. The end goal is for your user to relate, to interact with what you have created. It can be as simple as them sharing it with their friends. That's an engagement. It can be as simple as them sharing it on their own social media profile. That's an engagement. It can be as simple as them sharing the link with a friend. It can be as big as them joining the event. You know, that's like different ways where your audience, your user can engage with your um with your designs. So how do you now tell a story? How do you tell a story? Telling a story involves you having a main character. You know, all I will be tying the first thing I've mentioned with the second one, because they are kind of intertwined. Yeah. So you have to have a main character. What's the main thing that I'm trying to tell them on this flyer? Am I trying to tell them that um they should form for my event? Am I trying to tell them that this is where to go when you need to save your money? Am I trying to tell them that this is where to go when you want to type something on your page? Am I trying to tell them that don't go this way? Or am I trying to tell them that 404, we are working on this particular part of our website currently. So what is the main character? What is the main character? What can they relate to in your story, in what you're trying to tell them? And I don't want you to see it as yeah, although that's kind of true to it, as someone narrating something, someone writing something as simple as a circle within your within your design can tell a story. Also, the color, the picture, the images that you have added to your design, what they should empower your main character. Yeah, that's why the main character is like the first thing what you want them to do. Then the color should empower the story. The picture should empower your your main character. Also, the next thing is composition. Composition. How have you arranged, your elements? How have you arranged what is in your design? Which one is bigger, which one is smaller, which one is the color, and all that. That's why I said knowing the basics, understanding design principles, understanding design elements is the core part of telling a visual storytelling using design. So how are you placed the object? Which objects are you placed on the right? Which objects are you placed at the center? Which object are you placed on the left? So all these are very, very important. And a very good example that I used to and I love to use is if you are designing for um people from they have Western education, you read from the left to the right. from left to right. But if you are designing for people that are in Arabs, that are in Asian, Arabic, they do not have a lot of this Western education. You have to consider them, you have to factor them in and do some designs that comes from the right to the left. You know, a very big example is this Qatar World Cup that just finished, that, that just complete, that was done about 2 years ago. You notice that even though there are some designs that come from that is normal to us, that has a Western education, the way they show their football pitch, the way they show their numbers, the way they show their there is still some other aspect of it that shows that there are some other audience that might not be familiar with what we are doing. So let us do a design, or let us write our text in such a way that they can relate to and they can understand. So another thing, yeah, I think, yeah, transition. So how are you helping your um audience to see, to move from one place to the other in your design? Okay, so from point A to point B to point C. An example is when you do Instagram Live or Instagram carousels, you notice that the first page kind of captures you. When you swipe, you kind of see, okay, this is the next thing. And you notice that some Instagram posts will have all these arrow or lines that does not stop at the first page. It's continuous. So when you open the first line, you see the arrow. When you swipe, you see the continuous, arrow going. When you swipe again, you see go till you get to the end of the slide. So transition is very, very important when you design. Also, typography and text. Like this is like very, very important because this is how you basically tell your story, like tell your words, you know, your the, the same um brands do not speak the same way. Brands do not communicate the same way. So typography and text is really, really important. And I would implore us that are into design, that are into videography, that are into photography to kind of read about typography, to kind of explore typography and see for yourself because there is a lot in typography that can impact the way you tell your story. All right, and that's all about visual storytelling using design. Remember, I said understanding design basics, understanding the elements, understanding the principles are important in telling your story. And here are examples of some of the stuff that I've done with sourcing rights where I work. You know, I basically work on designs such as flyers, infographics, report design, and not so much of product design because we don't really do that in sourcing rights. So in sourcing rights, we work with numbers, we work with imageries, and as you can see here, I have with the infographics at the center, I have arranged it in such a way that what you see first is the 8,000, 800 plus. The next thing that will follow is 50 plus. I think the next thing that your eye will be drawn to is the tree, 500, the tree image itself, then the numbers, then the idea imagery that is there, then if 52 climate books related, I've tell the story using different elements, using typography, using images, using colors, using um, icons, to explain so many things that I'm talking about. And so before I continue, I'll not go back to the beginning. You notice that I use a lot of road signs. There is park, there is warning animals around, there is people crossing, slow down, there is, oh, calm down. There is speed bumps ahead. There is oh, this direction, that direction. There is oh, let's go this way. You might be asking, or you probably have not taken note of that. I'm trying to be metaphorical in such a way. So when you are doing design, you should let your audience also like decide for themselves what they feel about the element that you have that you have that you have added to your design. Yes. So let them decide for themselves. And in this case, I got this idea when I was traveling down from Lagos, and I was looking at the road signs. I noticed that I think this tells a story to the driver easily than you telling them turn right, turn left, look up, look down, all that. The driver can easily see, oh, there is an arrow here that says I can go this way. Yeah, so and that's really important. The driver does not have time to read. You cannot. There's really because there are so many things calling for their attention. So it can easily relate to the arrow turn left. And if you notice in this design, I have used them in such a way that it relates to what we are talking about, like some element within my design. So we have the arrow saying, oh, we are going now to the next slide. And this shows that, oh, we have visuals, we have storytelling. This shows that, oh, let's calm down. Let's drive through these forms that is on the way. And this one also tells us that, hey, instead of you rushing to those tools, to those you are using those softwares, calm down. Let's go back to the basics. Slow down. And the next one says, yeah, this, this is a story. We have two children crossing the street. A, 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 a driver would easily know that, oh, I'm in a school area. I should slow down. You know, I have telling a story using icon, using images. The reaction, the engagement from the driver for them to slow down, to drive cautious, with caution. And here, because I'm using Softly Vibes is a youth-led organizations that want to help the African youth understand the idea of sustainability relatively. That's why I've added some trees, some clouds, and, and the image of um the sign of an animal. Because when you are in the forest or when you are in in green areas, you should be aware of animals, jumping out from so many places. And here I use letter P, which is park. This is park. But we have gone through some journeys, we have gone through some stories, and we are inside the car. We are parking. So before we come down, I would love to share the story of the king and his three daughters. So the, there is a king that has three daughters. He he loves his daughters so much, but he does not know if or he is not sure how much the daughters actually love him back. So he now ask them, he now call them all together and ask them a question: How much do you love me? The first daughter responded, "Oh, I love you more than the diamonds in the world. I love you more than the rupees in the world." And the king was excited and was so much elated by how the first daughter has described her love for him. So he called on the second daughter, and second daughter also said, "Oh, king, I love you so much. I love you more than silver. I love you more than gold." And the king smiled. He was excited and all that. And he called on the third daughter. When the third daughter said, "I love you more than all the socks in the whole world." SALT. I love you more than all the socks in the whole world. The king was surprised with the answer and was furious. I was like, "How- of all the things that I know what, how would you say you love me more than a sort that we don't really value and all this. So the king, in annoyance, sent the third daughter away from the palace, and you know the daughter was sent into the wilderness. She was alone. Then in that wilderness, she came in contact with um the prince. Luckily, so um, the prince and the princess now, this is daughter of the king, fell in love with each other. They loved themselves, and the princess now narrated what happened between her and the king. And the prince now said, "Oh, I heard your story, but I will marry you and I will invite the king to the to the to my own kingdom, and we would have a wedding. And through that event, through that story, we would um teach the king a lesson." That is the end of my stories. Thank you so much. Thank you for paying attention to my discussion, to my view of visual storytelling. I know you kind of say that I did not complete the story, right? So I will share the link to this slide, or I will share the slide itself with the top person on the Bincom Dev Center, and we will share the slide with you so that you can click on the link and actually see the story for yourself. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Busayo. That was a really wonderful wealth of knowledge. I can be sure that we've all learned something from what Mr. Busayo has shared today. And I guess we all have some questions, but we'll have to wait till the end of the session before we allow some questions. But you can, in case you don't want to forget, you can just put the questions on the chat box. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. So in case you have your questions ready, just drop it on the chat box. Mr. Busayo will attend to it at the end of the second speaker. So thank you very much, Mr. Busayo. Please do wait ahead in case some
Right.
people have some questions to ask you. So
Uh,
Dasola, good afternoon. Are you ready?
Good afternoon, Adekunle. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Thank you so much.
Yes.
So Dasola is another beautiful designer. He's been a designer for a while now, currently with Bincom Dev Center, and over time, as well as proving himself to be a designer worth looking out for. So permits me to welcome that Dasola to the stage so he can share his knowledge with us too. Thank you very much, Dasola.
Thank you very much, Adekunle, for the introduction. I hope to keep the belief growing stronger, the belief in me growing stronger. So I'll be sharing my slide now. I'll share my screen now. So um, sorry about this. Can can everyone can everyone still hear me?
Yes, I
yes.
can hear you.
Thank you. Okay. So I will be starting. So can everyone see my screen? Please, if anyone can't see my screen, please let me know.
I can see your screen.
Okay, thank you very much. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Babadasula Ogunbadejọ. I'm currently a designer, graphics and UI UX designer with the Bincom design system. I'd like to say thank you to the previous speaker for sharing with us his knowledge on visual storytelling. It was very enlightening, even for me, even after all the research that I have done into the topic in preparation for this meetup. His his presentation was also very enlightening. It took routes that I didn't put into consideration when I was doing my research. So I would like to say thank you for that. Um, so for my presentation on visual storytelling, I would I would like to start with something simple, something the basics of visual storytelling. Sorry, my so yes, so a quick introduction into visual storytelling from a, let's say, marked different angle from Mr. Busayo. Visual storytelling can just simply be seen as a way of creating a narrative by mixing all the various elements of design. But I went the route on which is used to present specific data to yes, so you're using images, you're using text, you're using graphics, and most importantly, using data to pass a narrative, to create a narrative, as you can see on the slide, a cohesive and engaging narrative to pass a message, which is at its very core, one of the most, that is the basics of design in general. No matter what type of design you're doing, no matter what type of, in what form it comes in, you have to pass a message. That is the point of us doing what we do as designers, whether graphics or UI. It is all about passing a message. So why is this important in modern communication in 2024, in today's day and age? It's once again very simple, very quick. It is just about passing complex information in a way that is more easily digestible, because you could see, no matter the type of data, as I'm going to show in future slides, there are some certain types of data that could be, that only people that are well trained will be able to read and understand them in their raw form. But at the same time, those data, you want to pass it on to like general public. And so by using certain elements of visual storytelling and using it as a concept, you'll be able to pass all those extremely complicated and complex information. You'll be able to pass it in a way that the average person will be able to easily understand it. And even if they do not like easily understand it, it is not something that is going to be impossible for them to understand, because with the mixture of image, with the mixture of graphics, and by doing it properly, it is something that yes, they can now, they don't need to go through years and years of education to actually um, learn, to actually be able to translate the data sets. So the sorry, yes, the power of visuals. Um, 65 of 65% of people are visual learners. That is due a result of certain studies that have been shown to see how people react to different forms of information. It has been shown that by using a picture, an image, they are more likely to retain that information than if you were to just give them a block of text, or you were to give them for it to just be speaking, speaking, speaking. So by giving them an image, it gives them something that their brains can easily like connect to information. By giving them a specific image, their brains can easily connect it to the information. Like Mr. Busayo showed in his presentation with the use of traffic signs. A lot of these traffic signs, they do not require any wordings on them, except the ones that are very similar looking, and then you have to. But the ones that are telling you to turn right, to turn left, even the ones that tell you to stop, that have the word stop on them, people don't, I don't know how many of us here drive, but when you see something like that, you don't need to see the word stop. Just having your eyes flash past the sign will let you know that okay, that is a stop sign before you even see the word stop, because your brain has been trained, your brain is used to recognizing the visual cues, not really the textual cues. Um, as I see here, visuals are processed 60 times faster than text, and it also comes back to Mr. It taking about 50 milliseconds for that is when people like grab information at the this in 50 milliseconds of them actually laying their eyes on something. So by the time they lay their eyes on it, within those 50 milliseconds, without tiny a length of time that is, you need something to be able to immediately capture their attention. If the first thing they see is a block of text, it is very likely for them to just look away. But if it is an image immediately grabs their attention. So if that's the first thing they see, it grabs their attention and it be able to immediately pass the message that you are trying to pass. So that also comes in when I talk about the impact of visuals in communication. It drastically helps you with your retention and your information recall, and it also makes complex information more accessible and understandable. The most complex of information could be put in a way that just by spending just a little bit of time, you'll be able to 100% understand it. Moving on, we cannot go too deep into the use of visual storytelling without coming back down to the very basics of just good design as a whole. No matter how you want to, sorry, no matter how much you want to, or how easily you want to pass information, if the design isn't good, if it does not subscribe to the well-known principles of design, all that you are left with is just causing actually more issues for the viewer, for the final user, for the final reader. Because if if the visuals aren't clear, the images aren't clear, the graphics aren't exactly, you don't use the proper images, you don't use the proper ones. You need to be very specific. That is the thing about design. You need to be very specific. You need to let them know that, okay, yes, this design is for this particular data. You um, cannot be doing something as you want to talk about something related to food, a thing talking about how, let's say, research has shown about how people prefer Italian food to Chinese food, and you're talking about food and everything in general, and then in part of the images, you use something, I don't know, like a doctor or stethoscope or something. It's just passing wrong information. Or as I put here, ambiguous graphics. It's like you need to make sure that your graphics are very in tune with the message you are trying to pass. Also, simplicity. Simplicity for all is always important for design. Depending also, this is also comes with a caveat, depending on the final user. Like there are people who like the flamboyancy sometimes, but that all comes down to preference. But you just have to make sure that at the end of the very day, that you keep your final user you keep them in mind, and you make sure that whatever you are doing, it's yeah, we like saying it's always user centered, user centric, because that is who you are designing for. You're not designing for yourself. You're not designing for any shareholders. You're designing for the final user. Also, consistency in the sense that once you for a particular we are not going to talking about specific data sets here. We're going to be talking about as a not even a designer, let's say as a company as a whole. Take Bincom Dev Center, for instance. You need to make sure that once you are designing anything related to design for that, you need to make sure that every single thing shares has a uniform style to the point where anyone that sees the designs that it could be sharing drastically different pieces of information. If one design could be like the design everyone got for this design meetup, it could be that, and the other one could be talking about, let's say, a vacancy or something like that. It's like the information the both are passing are different, but you should do it in a way that, or even without looking at, let's say, maybe the logo, even though that would be an important part, but that just looking at the design system as a whole, you can tell that, oh, this was made for the same institution. That is something you need to make sure of. So if you start off your design flamboyant, you need to make sure that every design moving forward is flamboyant. If you will start off your design very simplistic, you need to make sure that everything moving forward is like that. So it's not just your color schemes, not just your fonts, not just the graphical elements. It is also the vibe basically of your designs also need to be um, they need to be similar, they need to be consistent. And also contrast, this is something we all know. If it is not readable, then there's no point in it. If people cannot differentiate the individual elements of the design from each other, then you failed as a designer. So contrast is a very important concept and a very important part of your design. So it should be something you really, really keep in mind as you move forward. So we are talking about infographics here because I feel when you want to pass messages using visual storytelling, infographics are a very let's say common way. They are it's of just passing those information. So we are just going to go through a few steps. I'll also like to note so for everyone that these specific steps are not like hard steps. They are not like, oh, you need to follow them in this exact order. It is advised to follow them in similar order, but it is all about, I'm putting this here as a way for you to just understand the process. It's everything has to be done in a process. You need to start from small to big. You cannot just get an idea for an infographic and go straight into design or something like that. You need to build yourself up. So as with everything, no matter whether it is design or development, or you need to start with an idea, a message. What is that message? How do you want to convey it? What vibe basically, again, I will keep on using that word. What vibe exactly do you want to pass with that message? Because the same message can feel different depending on exactly how it is passed. Okay, we are for I think we're all Nigerians here, but for something like a funeral could either be a happy event or a very somber event, depending on a few things, depending on the age of the individual that died and everything like that. So you could send out an obituary, and depending on exactly the vibe you are trying to pass with the obituary, people can know that yes, this is, as they put it, a celebration of life, or this could actually be something, a tragic event that happened. So that should also be something you actually really put in mind, that what exactly are you trying to pass with the message? After you get that part down, the next part is for you to get your data. Data is very important no matter what you are doing. So you need to collect accurate and up-to-date information. You cannot be doing something in 2024 and working with something from the 1980s. You need to work with something that is recent, has been something that has been verified. Because once again, you really do not want to be a carrier of fake news or fake information. So you need to make sure that all your sources, every piece of information you get, you've verified their source and you verified their source for their integrity and their reliability. If you cannot, the best advice I would give is if you cannot verify a piece of information, you should really not use it, because then at any point in time, if it comes out that the information is false and it can be shown that you used that piece of false information, it will be a mark against you and whatever institution that you made that particular design for. So the next step would be to choose a layout. The entire point of choosing a layout is you just deciding how do you want to pass the information? How do you want to organize it? How do you want to make sure that the final reader looks at the information the same exact way you want them to look at it? You need to make sure that it is logically organized. You need to make sure that it's done in the proper way while as maintaining design principles. That is a very important part of creating designs in general, not even just the infographics that we are talking about here, designs in general. And as I put here, you can consider using grids and templates for structure. I say consider, but it's strongly advised for you to use grids so that everything you do is aligned properly. But I know that there are some designs that maybe a use of a grid might be a little bit restricting, but as for some elements of the design, using grids will be very important. And templates, if you are making something that has previous I guess previous forms, you can use templates to just make it easier on yourself and for you to basically be using an industry accepted form for the structure. So after you get all that, the next is to choose your visual elements, the elements that you are going to use, whether they are charts, they are icons, images, illustrations, however you are going to represent that data. You will need to choose them, you need to get them, you need to make sure once again that they are very relevant and they support the message that you're trying to pass. You cannot be just putting things willy-nilly. You need to make sure that whatever visual element you put in your design is strongly helping you to pass the information that you are trying to pass. It supports the message. It doesn't in any way detract from the message. Once you can do that, you've already gone sorry for that. Once you've done that, you've taken a very big step, because visuals are always going to be a big part, as like that is the entire core of what we are doing here, using visual storytelling. So by the time you've chosen your visual elements in the proper way, you've already taken a very big step. The next is your supporting text. Yes, while we are trying to use visual storytelling here, it will somewhat be incomplete without supporting text. Because yes, you want to use your images to pass information. You want to use them to immediately grab attention, to immediately let people know what you are doing. But at the same time, you also want to be able to further explain exactly what these images, what these visuals are trying to portray, what they are trying to say. And because at the same time, you don't want to bore them, so you need to avoid using long paragraphs and preferably use bullet points if that works for the particular design that you are creating. And then last, but certainly not the least, is to refine and review. Whatever you have done, you need to go over it with a think home over and over again. You need to make sure that everything is clear. You need to make sure that all the information you're trying to pass is done properly. You need to make sure that it is actually aesthetically pleasing to the eye. You need to make sure that it's accurate, very important, that everything you put there is accurate. You need to make sure like your spellings are accurate, everything like that. And then you send it out for feedback. And you need to be open to feedback. Make sure that you can make your necessary adjustments. Once you get feedback, proper feedback, you should be able to make your adjustments in a way that will further improve your design as a whole. So these are just three of the tools, of three of many tools, but I chose these three of many tools that you could use. Your Illustrator, that is for creating vector graphics. Canva for when you want to use anything regarding templates, also, although Figma will also be a very big Figma, using Figma communities. The Figma community will also be a very big replacement for Canva. And also PictoCharts, a software that I found while researching this topic. It helps you a lot when you want to create infographics. It makes things easier. It makes things so much simpler in the process of you creating infographics for whatever design you are trying to create. So these are so how should we create effective illustrations? Because you need, apart from creating the designs as a whole, illustrations are also very simple. I will quickly run through this because a lot of the concepts are very similar to the ones that I just finished. Because at the end of the day, like I said previously, design concepts are the basic, and the basics are very important. You just need to make sure that your design concepts are strong, your design principles are strong, and to make things so much easier for you. So, out designing effective illustrations. Obviously, you storyboard, you plan everything you want to do, like I already said. So using metaphors and symbols, and that is just for ease of spreading information. Like I said here, using a light bulb for ideas, like putting a light bulb over someone's head. If it is off, it shows that you can have two images side by side. The one person did that with the first image with the light bulb off, and the second image with the light bulb on. Just without even writing anything, just someone seeing those two images side by side would anyone will be able to understand that, okay, yes, this means that you are trying to pass the image, the fact that this person has immediately like gotten an idea, has gotten like an enlightened in some form or this thing, and that is why the light bulb turned on. The same way you use gears turning, you don't even need to make them like in motion, just putting a gear, either like in someone's head, masking them in someone's head to show like there's a gear turning in his head. Everyone will know that that person is thinking. And in that same vein, no matter where you put gears, people would automatically drift into the belief that, oh, this is a process that is going on. So you using more, symbols like that is also very important to your illustrations. Then a very important concept that I didn't mention, color psychology. Color psychology is very important. It's an entire topic on its own. It needs to be gone in depth into, and which I will not be able to do today. But color psychology is very important. So you need to be able to know how to pick and choose colors to evoke emotions, to highlight key points. You need to be able to pick your colors to actually um, spread your message better, because you cannot be having a stop. With the example I used of a stop sign, where I said people just instinctively, they don't even necessarily need to read the writing on it. If you have a stop sign that legitimately says stop, it has every other thing, but instead of the red symbol there, you put a green or you put a blue, it would always, in a way, like it would be confusing, it would be unnecessary, and it will most likely lead to accidents because of just wrong information. And so you need to also keep like the colors, your color choice, and the psychology behind your color choice in mind every time you're working towards creating effective illustrations. So a quick example of an effective illustration is this specific particular image. It just shows two people relaxing, working using their laptops, and you can just tell from everything that, oh, these are meant to be people who have a certain level of romantic affection towards each other without any without anyone telling you, just from the colors that were used, the symbols that were used, and everything. Even though they are not in any form of physical contact, they are not. There's no underlying text telling you anything. Just with the symbols, you can tell that, oh, there is a certain level of romantic affection and emotion between the two characters in this illustration. So, a case study into visual storytelling as a concept. So growing up, I've always been a fan of animals. I've been a fan of nature. I've been a fan of wildlife. I've been a fan of, all of that. So one of the biggest parts of my childhood was National Geographic. Uh, so it is so just talking about just going through the magazines and everything and seeing all the different beautiful images and like the information that they pass there. For a child that was hyperactive, if it was just blocks of text everywhere, trust that I would not have paid any form of attention to it. But because of the way they were able to create their infographics, it was something that would captivate you just with the sheer beauty of it all. And I'll be sharing with you one of them right now. So this is one, an infographic. It is called The Brain in Slumber. So just off the rip, seeing this particular image, you would just from the sheer beauty of it all, you would not want to think too deeply about, oh, I can't, you would not really notice how much of figuratively the text is, because you'd be captured by exactly just how beautiful it is. And then with the way they use their font choice, with the way they arranged everything, they have basically programmed you, they programmed how they want you to look at these images and how to want you to process this information. With the way they've enlarged some parts of the important parts of the brain that are actually like important while while you are slumbering, while you're sleeping. They've also let you know this, since once again, it's all about knowing your audience. They know that anyone that is reading or reading National Geographic or anything, they want to have all these very specific pieces of information. So it will not be a case of them wanting just something throw away. So by the same time, even though they know that no matter what, most likely their readers will read their information, will read their magazine because they are just trying to get the information. They also need to make sure that whatever they do is done in a very enticing way. It has to be done in a way that actually grabs their attention. So that is why you have so many colorful, not colorful in the normal sense, but with the contrast of everything else being dull and gray, every form of color that you see immediately drags your attention to it. And that is why you look at the header, The Brain in Slumber, where my mouse is rotating over, by just like as one of the main pieces of text that is the only piece of text that is actually in a color that is not black. After looking at all the images, like looking at the image and admiring it, that is where your eyes go to first, so that you know, okay, this is the topic of conversation here. And then from there, they've seen you easily now go left to right and figuring out how the information that they are trying to pass to you. So I've personally I personally ran into this particular infographic, before I actually was getting ready for this presentation. So I'm just talking about my own personal experience with it, not even as a graphic designer as I was looking at it, but just as a fan of National Geographic. So that's just how it goes. It uses arrows and uses the specific colors to just tell you exactly how the process in the brain is going. Another one, another institution that is well known for their visualizations is the New York Times. I'm not that much of a business person, but in my research, I found out just how well known they are for their data visualizations, because it's with the New York Times. It's for this particular thing, it's all about them talking to people about money, the economy, and everything. And so that is where this particular chart comes in. This is a chart talking about basically the evolution of black and white people in America, and if how they basically how their movements in economy wise, whether from how they are born to how they are when they are adults. So this is by knowing that the black people are represented by the pink dots and the white people are represented by the green dots. By just looking at this, without even counting, necessarily need to count, just by the density of everything, you can tell the information that's trying to pass. You can tell, okay, that this is the what has happened. This is the result of whatever form of survey that has been taken. So you can see which place has a larger density of green, which place has a larger density of pink, and just off of that, you'll be able to come up with your own conclusions by yourself before moving on to the rest of the article that come attached to these visualizations. Before you move on to the rest of the articles, and then you read more deeply into the exact steps of the survey and what it means for the economy and things like that. So practical tips for when you are creating your infographics or your designs, or however you want to pass your information via visual storytelling. Most important, you need to know your audience, because from what I just showed, we saw how the New York Times passed their information to their more business-minded readers, to how National Geographic passes information to their more, let's say, they are more relaxed. It's all about knowing your audience. You cannot use a National Geographic infographic for the New York Times. It will look clumpy, it will look unnecessary for them. For people reading the New York Times for their business information, they need something that is immediately direct, it's immediately understandable. They don't need all the flair and everything. But if you were to use similar data visual this thing that the New York Times use for National Geographic, it would be boring for them. It would be like, okay, so where's the color, where's the flair, where's the flamboyance? Like, so you need to know your audience. I need to use language, you need to use visuals that you know will actually resonate to them, that will be relatable with them. And secondly, you need to iterate and improve. That is very important as designers, as people. Well, we are talking about it as designers here. You need to be able to get feedback from your peers and from people that represent your target audience. And you need to be open to implementing the feedback. You need to be able to accept any errors you made, and you need to be able to work towards fixing them. And thirdly, staying updated, whether it is with design trends, whether it's with design tools, you need to make sure that you're updated, you're using the latest versions, you know all the new features that are available and how they could help you use your design. And also need to follow design blogs, attend webinars and meetups like the one that we are currently having. and also join design communities. I'll use this to shamelessly plug the Bincom design club that is on WhatsApp. I'll make sure to add a link to it for anyone that is not a member of it. And so just things like that. You just need to make it in by having these communities around you, by joining these webinars, by reading these blogs, you make sure that everything that is going on doesn't pass you by. You have all these things at your beck and call, and you have people that will always be willing to help you. So thank you for that. I'll be open to any questions and any feedback regarding my presentation. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. I'm sure some of us have questions already. So if you have any questions from any of them, kindly drop it in the chat box or I'll raise your hand to just speak. Any questions from anyone? Everybody's just quiet. What's going on? Are we not following? Hello, can anyone hear me? Hello.
Yes, I can hear you, Deacon.
Yeah, thank you. So I said, if you have any questions for me, please let's ask. Thank you. Thank you, Balikis. Thank you for that. Okay,
Yeah,
so
can you hear me?
I can hear you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for the two speakers. Thank you for the presentation. I appreciate it. So basically, my question is based on, actually me, I'm from the product management field. So I feel like in order for me to be able to visualize some kind of representation to my stakeholders, at least I must have a basic knowledge of how the design team process works and all, both the developers and all. So my question is, through this storytelling thing that we've just discussed now, that was just presented to us, how can you as a project manager use this to visually represent, just so that by the time the UI UX designer is walking you through the whole process of workflow of what he has designed, the wireframe and all, how do you explain, how do you put yourself in the conversation just to make the UI UX designer know that you actually know what you're talking about? Because believe me, majority of them might make a fool out of you and just feel like you do not know what you are doing. But your ability to be able to make them understand that, oh, you know what you are doing. Okay. Even if they're trying to mislead you, this is what you are doing wrong. This is what you are. I think you should do this way. So I will need a little bit of insight of that, if you do not mind. If you understand what I mean, please. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for that question. I guess Taiwo, right?
Winner, please.
Okay. All right, winner. Thank you. So, Mr. Busola, Mr. Busayo, can you please answer this question?
Yeah. All right. If I get the question very well, the question is, how can you, as a product manager, use visual storytelling as a tool to present to your stakeholders? Am I right? Or why relating to designers within your team?
No, not basically you
How do
using
you
it. At least sometimes whereby the designers are not around, you might have to be the one to take up the job of storytelling. I'm just speaking from the perspective, okay, what if he is around and you're trying to visualize these things for you and you realize that there are loopholes? How do you come in as the product manager just so you feel like you are trying to take over their job or you're trying to do too much? Because they do not like micromanaging and none of us like that, if as case might be. So how do you actually come into that that aspect of you trying to make them understand, like, oh, you're psychologically safe with me. You can tell me, okay, this is what I feel we should do.
Okay. Yeah. I think I get the question now. So it's almost like, yeah, you have said nobody really likes to, especially for creatives, it's really difficult for us to have anyone talk down on what we have done. We are kind of, there's this, I won't say echo, but I, it's almost like we are, we understand what we are doing, and actually want you to see it. But if you don't see it that way, you feel maybe you are not getting it, or that. But as a product manager, or someone who is not into design, and you're trying to like make comments, make feedbacks, make suggestions on particular design, I think you should come in um from the angle of being open-minded. Yeah, and it will show in when you like come up with the questions that you have for them. It will show in when you like throw your question to them, and in when you point to what they have done, within their um design. So another thing that you should and I think you can do is to understand design. Yeah, understand design and let them know, or show it to them that you kind of understand this thing that you have done, or I think I understand that this and this and this and this. The reason why I have chosen this color is to show that we are calm, and or is to show that there's a bit of warning here on this particular aspect of design. But why don't we just look at it this way? And we also like give reasons, why you are telling them to like um decide to go with your suggestion. So it's more or less like you understanding that they are experts what they do. Like, oh, you are very good at what you do. I know you are very good, but can you like look at this? Can you like look at this? You can back up your suggestions with examples. You get so those people did it this way and it works for them and all that. So it's a matter of being open-minded with them. Um, understanding that they know what they are doing, but they are kind of suggesting it. And also, you can also use some of what you have mentioned here to like back up your points. Is it consistent with what you have been doing in the past? Is it aligning, and can we relate what you have done in the past to what is going on currently? And all that. So I think um would be a way that you can use what you have discussed today. I don't know if that answers your question.
Okay,
All right.
thank you very much, Mr. Busayo. Thank you for that. So there's another question in the chat box. Says, is story okay? What's differentiate? That's it say what differentiates a graphic designer and a UI UX designer? Okay, Dasola, can you answer that?
Yes, I can. So, what differentiates a graphic designer and a UI UX designer? It's it is simply what exactly you are designing. From their names, from their titles, you can tell a graphic designer designs graphics. When they say graphics, it's graphics that are meant to be viewed, they are meant to be looked at, but not technically interacted with. You are just meant to view them, you are meant to understand them, they are there to pass you information. I say not to be interacted with, but that is when I talk about them in comparison to UI. UI short for user interface is basically just you are creating something that will eventually be developed further that will now be something that users can be interacting with in real time. That's when we talk about websites, we talk about apps, we talk about games, we talk about anything that can be interacted with in real time and changes can be made to them. Like they have some certain level of UI to them. And then UX is the user experience. It's basically just exactly how users will use these particular interfaces and how to make that better for them. So where a UI UX designer is focused on creating an interface for users and making sure that this interface is done in the best sort of way, um, a graphics designer is creating graphics to be used to pass certain levels of information, whether it is flyer, whether it is social media post, it could be a banner, it could be one of those billboards, all of those fall under graphics. But UI is basically is just falls under things that can be um, actively interacted with. If I didn't explain that properly, anyone can please like go further into that. But to the best of my knowledge, that is the way to differentiate them. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all. About keys. I hope you answered the first question. Let me just go straight to Star Osayo. There's another question. It said, is content, is storytelling as the same as content creation? Do you feel there's, and if it is not, please tell us the difference between the content creation and storytelling.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's completely related. Uh, but is it the same? Not the same as content creation. I won't say it's exactly the same because some content might not be telling a story. Or they are not telling the story the right way, or they are telling the story and they, you know, yeah, it's all about understanding that storytelling can form in several forms, can form in several ways. And it's yeah, it can form in several forms, several ways. It's not directly the same, but storytelling is can be like a concept that you can use in creating your content. So if for example, if you're a content creator, you creating content for makeup artists or makeup artists, you have to like you can't just do your content in the same way everybody has been doing their content. Yet you are kind of trying to be different. You are kind of trying to like say something the same thing but in a different way. So storytelling can be a tool for you to to create your content in in a different way. So instead of um the usual way that you have seen several other people tell their story or created their content, and use stories that they might not even think of. Something that is trending, something that is personal to you, something that is peculiar to some set of people to like create stories and create content that that is related to them. And that was why we said when we were going through the slides, um Mr. Baba Dasola mentioned that knowing your audience like is very, very important. Knowing your audience is very, very important. So it will help you to tell a story using your content. It will help you use your content to tell a story that is related to them. So storytelling is an aspect of content creation, but it's not exactly the same as content creation.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Dasola, do you want to add to that?
In relation to that, I think the best thing I can say is as while they are not the same, yes, they are very connected. You cannot technically do content creation without using visual storytelling, no matter the content you are trying to make, whether it could be TikToks, it could be regular so content for organizations, so that like so business wise, you have to use some aspects of visual storytelling. But at the same time, I can't say they are the same because that would be locking visual storytelling into a box, which we shouldn't do. It's not just about creating content, it's all about passing information. Although once again, they sound more and more similar, but they are very closely related. There are a lot of intersections between them, but content creation and visual storytelling should not be, I think they should not be mistaken for the same exact thing. They should be seen as individually what they are on their own, but it should also be very conscious of their similarities. And now you can use concepts that you use in different forms of content creation as a means of passing information. Because with visual storytelling, you can if by following the concepts and principles of visual storytelling, you have a way of basically arranging exactly in your mind. If it's something like a video form content, of arranging in your mind how the content is going to flow and how it's going to be. So, and then you can use your experience from creating content in a way that you can then be able to easily arrange your the data that you are going to use for visual storytelling. So the similarities are there, the similarities are very abundant, but just for the sake of the integrity of the concepts themselves, you should be more open to see them as individual concepts and not as just the exact same thing. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Asala. Thank you so much for that input. Do we have any other questions from anyone? Okay, so I guess there's no question from anyone. So we'll be rounding up the session now. So I will implore our two speakers to just drop their social so we can all follow them in case we probably want to continue this conversation. So please, sir, you can drop maybe your LinkedIn details or um, Twitter account. Okay. Taiwo, Winner, you want to say something?
All right, thank you. So please I just need a little bit of clarification on the second part, the second speaker talked about the content creation part. So he said something that really struck me. He said there are some content creations there's no content creation that wouldn't involve you showing like graphics when it comes to like pictures and the likes. But I would say I wouldn't say I agree to that, and that's why I said I needed clarification. Also, I said I needed clarification because there's some posts you pull up on some social medias, like LinkedIn, for example. You could write a content and just not include visuals as well. Twitter as well can pull up the content and not include visuals as well. As long as your audience are trying to get the idea of what you are talking about, and a lot of people do that, even in the tech industry. Those that do not work in the whole visual representation sector, like all these product mind as an example, might not necessarily show them the journey map you're talking about. You actually pull up the content just to comment on a particular post and boom, the content will just go viral. So I just need a little bit of clarification on that. That does it necessarily mean that it does not include visual? That necessarily does not count as content creation. Like just to clarify what he said and what I also said as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. That's a lot. Somebody needs clarification.
Yes. Okay, so thank you for that, Winner. So when I said that, I didn't mean that's why I was very specific about not mistaking, like, while that there are similarities, you shouldn't look at the two of them as one and the same. I did not mean like that's why I said content. Content comes in different forms, as we all know. Um, it is there's almost every form of content, whether video, text, just writing a blog is in its own way. It's not in its own way. It is content creation. Um, Making a TikTok, it is content creation. As you said, making a post on LinkedIn with just text and maybe just one specific image, that is content creation. And that's why I said that we should be able to use the principles of the two concepts interchangeably. The principles of content creation can be used in visual storytelling. And when I said that, I meant the research aspect, the way that with like let's look at the blogs on their own. You look at the research that goes into you finding out information about a blog. You don't just When you're writing out a blog, you don't just write out every form of information without knowing how you are going to arrange it. You need to know, okay, this comes before this comes before this, and it builds on that. Am I right, Winner? I hope like that is how we understand how blogs are written. Like you can't just write them, you need to build from
Yeah, of course.
sorry?
All right, because yes, I understand. I get what you mean.
Yes.
Thank you.
So in that vein, using that same principle and you apply it to something like visual storytelling. Like take for instance the National Geographic infographic that I put up. It is all about, with design principles in general, there's a way for designers, that's how we are able to push your attention from one place to another place using certain visual cues and color codes and everything. So by the time you take that concept of blog writing or going from simple to complex, and you use that in something related to visual storytelling, that you start by putting the simple parts in one place and like then leading the reader's attention to the more complex areas of the visual storytelling. That's what I meant by using the principles interchangeably. I did not mean to insinuate that content creation can only be called content creation when there's like an elaborate use of visuals. No, no, no. That was if maybe I made a mistake with my wording. I tend to do that sometimes, but that was not the intention. I was just trying to say that the principles can be used interchangeably. That is all. Yes, because even within just content creation, like telling a story on TikTok, you don't just go from when you're telling a story on TikTok. I'm pretty sure, I don't know if everyone here watches all those story time TikToks as much as I do, but there's a certain thing where they do where they start the TikTok with one of the most, I guess, outrageous things that happened that technically happened in the middle, just so that is the first thing that grabs your attention. And then as you go forward, then they start from the beginning and then eventually they get back to what that particular outrageous thing was, and then they finish their story. It's the same way when you're reading like a blog post or a newspaper article, an article in general, you would see that there's like a box of like blown up text that is bigger than the rest, where it is like a very important section of the article that was put there. So that is the first thing that grabs your attention. You see it. That is on its own, it's a form of visual storytelling, using that blown up this thing to grab your attention. It grabs your attention. You see the text, you see that, oh, this is actually something interesting. And then that is more likely to make you go back to the beginning of the article, go to the top of the article, and then start reading it little by little. Because in your mind, you've already had an idea of, oh, something interesting is about to be mentioned. And so that will be more likely for you to go step by step. So even within concept creation as a concept on its own, with all the different forms of content creation, you can already be interchanging design principles. That is the same way you can interchange those design principles, not design principles, those principles with the principles in visual storytelling. Yes, that's so I hope I cleared that up for you, Winner.
Yes, you did. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. That's all. Okay, so we've come to the end of today's session. I know. Okay, thank you, Gasala. We should check your profile. So we also see you guys. Thank you soon. Next session. So thank you very much. Have a good day.
Okay, thank you.
So much for having us. Bye, everyone.
Okay.